can't end without
market outlook.
without asking the market outlook.
So, ang lakas ng market ngayon.
Grabe yun. Diba?
I love
you 8,000.
I love you.
So, yun medyo...
Dinuwi na ni Javi kanina para prepared.
Binrate yung flag pattern or something.
So, breakout.
Basta yan. May para siyang
Channel.
Consolidation channel.
Ganda.
So, anong tingin nyo? Ikaw, Javi.
Right, so I'll be the first to admit that when you make a mistake, you just come out and say that you made a mistake. So for maybe some of the listeners who aren't familiar, while the market was here, and while the market was here, we actually came out with a note saying that a bear thesis essentially that the Philippines was that the support of the Philippines would reach eventually 6.3 to 6.8. So you can actually go to my Investagrams. Hindi namin di-delete yun. You can actually read it there. And we also said that central to that thesis was our bearish view on the US market. So since then, prices have gone down to 7.4 and have rallied back up, right? Yeah. In parang rally sa US, di ba? In December. Di man ganun, pero it was a very strong V-shaped like rally. So you're going back to your question from a market outlook point of view. Again, I'll be the first to say that I made a mistake, at least in the short term, right? At least in the short term, saying that prices would reach 6.3, 6.9. And for me, we also said that the key resistance that would invalidate that bearish view was, I think I remember 7.950. And that 7.950 was simply based on the 7.8 fib resistance, right? So you draw resistance from here to here. If we actually look at the 7.86 here, then you can see that that's how we got the 7.950. Why? What's the importance of the 7.86? Because counter rallies usually hit minimum 50% fib to I'd say 90% of all counter rallies hit a 50% fib to a 7.86 fib. So there are a few counter rallies that actually don't exceed the previous high, right? So I'd say from a market outlook point of view, I would still have to say I'm not on the bullish side, to be clear. For me to be completely on the bullish side, I would want it to break this key horizontal resistance over here, right? So I think this resistance is the 8.2 to 8.215, because obviously for me, I would want that to be taken out, because that would completely invalidate at least the complex head and shoulders. When we say complex head and shoulders, if you go to Edwards and McGee, technical analysis of stock trends, complex head and shoulders are where you have one head and two shoulders or multiple shoulders on each side. So I would want to see that taken out first.
Yeah.
And if you look at the US looks like it's going to continue to move lower. And that would mean that the Philippines would need to move higher while this moves lower. And if I were to, again, going back to an exercise that we do, if I were to argue the case against the view that I gave 2 weeks ago, if I were to play devil's advocate as to why prices would break out, I would say that for the past 15 days, if you look at the past 3 days, including today, we've had our third straight day of net foreign buying, right? Third straight day of net foreign buying after 11 straight days of net foreign selling. And that's very important if you're a trader to track. Why? Because Philippines is 50-50. foreign money, local money traded on an average per single day, while the average in Southeast Asia is somewhere between 70% local, 20-30% foreign. So since foreign is a large component, so Philippines, that's really one key thing that we look out for. We're also getting word that some foreign brokerages upgraded Philippines, Indonesia, and Thailand to a buy. I think the past 1-2 days. So that's one of the things going for the bulls. So I would want to see this level taken out, right? I would want to see that level taken out, while at the same time the Philippines show relative strength versus global markets, because there was one really good slide that I enjoyed in the sketch released by Calum today, and it actually pointed out that all major markets, you look at Japan, US, Hong Kong, are already below the 200-day moving average, which is a key support for at least what most active fund managers, traders look at. So for me, that's one thing. But I'll make one other important point. Another important point is, because you're asking us what our outlook is, which means that embedded in your question is asking us what do we think, or where do we think is the market headed. But as traders, I think this is common with every system-based trader, whether it's Calum, CFT, Kaizen, or other communities, is that if you're a trader, you are also disciplined enough to trade what you see and not what you think, right? Which means that
Price is king.
price is king, exactly, and at the end of the day, yung maglalagay ng pagkain sa table mo, yung magpapakain sa'yo, it's not what you think, it's what price does, right? Which is why a lot of people paano
Boom. Actually, yung levels na ngayon, it's really hard to answer the question of where the market is headed. Primarily because it's nasa area siya of not breaking the key resistances, which is the 8-2, while being above naman siya nung theory namin. So, ang hirap, I mean, if ako for, Javi, I don't know for you, pero in my practice, it's the few instances that I relax the Elliott bias and stick to the price action and setups first.
Right. So actually tama yun. No? If you going back to trading what you see and what you think, now that you see prices breaking out, obviously the important thing is to go for at least when you see prices breaking out, or even as prices were moving higher, you shouldn't let and I'm talking to myself primarily here. You shouldn't allow your own outlook or your own biases interfere with what you're seeing. And in deep tech, in our team, we always have this term that we use. It's called carving. Kailangan marunong ka mag-carve it. What do I mean by carving? Which means that when you have, let's say, a certain directional bias as to what you think, whether you think the market's going to go up or going to go down, or whether it's for a stock for that matter, whether you think the stock is going to go up or down because of maybe a friend of yours tinipan ka on some inside information, or whether you have which we don't use, by the way, or whether you are biased because of some fundamental research or fundamental piece of information. We always like to use the term carve because you always need to carve towards what price is telling you, right? Which means that if let's say a top-down bearish outlook is telling you to go this way, but price is setting up in such a way that it tells you to go the opposite way, then as a trader, we should be really disciplined to trade what we think, to trade what we see and not what we think. And you need to be able, I always like to use the term na carving towards what you see involves a higher level of trading psychology, because as a trader, as you become more disciplined in carving towards what you see versus what you think, helps you deal with the biases as they get stronger, as your fund continues to grow, as let's say you put yourself in. So, syempre, as your fund continues to grow, you continue to expose yourself to more people, to more expectations from clients, to more research, right? And to tweaks and improvements in your system. So it's always very important to learn how to carve towards what you see and what you think. And more importantly, if you think differently and the market does the opposite thing, you really just have no choice but
Pilot ka lang.
or just humble yourself and tell you made a mistake and you made you made a mistake and then that I hope you traded what you saw, right? So in the same way that's how we're operating as well. So
Ayun, so may tanong si Sir Anton, with the current market trend, is it time to go back into index stocks or still stay away?
hi, Anton Bonifacio. So again, it really goes back to what you're seeing here. And you really have to approach the market bottom up here. So I failed to mention it a while ago, but one of the maybe the key learnings I'd like to share with you is one of the things that really opened my mind when I attended the Minervini workshop back in 2017 was he said that you really have to approach the market from a bottom-up point of view and not from a top-down point of view. In fact, he said he even went to the extent that if forget about the index and your trading will actually be 10 times better.
Focus on the setups.
Focus on the setups. And that also goes back to what we said a while ago, trade what you see, not what you think. And maybe I should have highlighted that the past 2 weeks, put more emphasis on that. But going back to your question, it's the main question now. With the current market trends, it's time to go back to index stocks. You really have to go back to the setup. I think going back now, marami ng mga index issues that are extended. Obviously, that are outside the normal setup.
But there are also na papasimula pa rin move like for example MPI.
Right.
They're breaking out of the range like FGen.
Right. So there are
Fresh
correct.
ones.
So there are fresh setups on hold. So MPI, I don't have it personally. I have it for clients, but you can see the weekly chart. You have a bullish divergence setup ongoing there, which maybe you can ride to the 236, 382 fib. So that's one index issue. You have FGen, which just broke out of a channel. So you want to wait for, I think the popular term is the golden pullback. Diba? So you have a breakout, you have a golden pullback to say FGen.
MPI.
So, MPI accumulation.
Right. So you have MPI is a more complicated technical setup, and I'd like to credit Paki Santos of COL for pointing this out. It's called a Wyckoff
Spring.
a Wyckoff spring.
Like of boy.
So if you actually just Google Wyckoff, which is a sub-dialect of technical, you can see that
Your lolo.
you can
Lolo.
see that Lolo.
Malolo.
You can really see uncanny resemblance between a Wyckoff setup and the Wyckoff bottoming pattern and what's happening with the MPI now. So Paki Santos was the one who actually brought us to that attention, and we hope that this will be a good trade for us moving forward.
But the opportunities.
Other opportunities would be, again, you want to stick to strong issues. So for strong issues, it's no secret. Natutunan ko naman, si Juan yung nagturo sa akin, and he's pretty much taught most people in COL how to use ADX. So we like to stick with issues that have ADX above 25. So you have those that are coiling that are above 25. So you have issues like that now, like for example CPG. You have CPG, Jerry. You have Web, which is coming from a reversal. you have
Yeah,
EI,
exactly.
you have parang naalala ko. You have FLI, which is just started.
Wala IDX.
It's already moved. Wala ba?
Wala.
Sorry, you have
Sa baba.
you have Cebu Pacific, obviously. Cebu Pacific, EI. And not only that, you have a big cap like, for example, Mega World, who just broke out from what looks like from a very large ascending triangle, right? From a 5-year ascending triangle. So as long as it stays above 598, 603, that looks to be in play. And again, guys, ako, everything I'm giving you are stocks that I don't have in my own personal portfolio para wala akong conflict of interest. Ayaw, kasi mabigat sa loob ko yung nagpo-promote ako na hawak ko eh. So, sa personal ko, may mga hawak. I mean, may mga hawak din ako, but using the same principles that I taught you. And most of what I have is in the US right now. But these are just some of the things that we're buying for clients. So, FEN, that's something that we've had for clients as well. Because obviously while the market was going down, it was exhibiting relative strength. And what you guys want kasi to understand is that you want to be in the leaders of the up move. And while the leaders it's easier said than done, what you need to understand is that the outliers during the down move, yung mga people, what people call the outliers, are what will eventually become the leaders once the market starts to turn. And while we don't have confirmation of the market turning yet, I would say it's maybe range bound at this point, as long as the market is below that 8213. Then you want to stick with strong issues that are setting up. Strong issues but not overextended. Strong issues that are just breaking out, that are just making those golden pullbacks to their breakout points. So I think we mentioned those. I think I use the InvestaScreener, right? Malaking tulong sa akin InvestaScreener. For the past 4 or 5 years, I had an assistant that I paid every month just to show me where the high ADX issues were.
So, tao talaga siya.
Tao talaga. Tao talaga. Obviously, apart from the many other filters and screens that we use, but ADX was one of the things that we were using the past half decade. And so you just want to stick to those strong issues and just let the price action of that particular issue tell you whether you want to buy, whether you need to buy, hold, or sell. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of headline risk over the next few days, the next few weeks, especially with tariff man, Mr. Trump, President Trump, expanding the tariff fronts to Mexico, and then obviously that was just something new on Friday, and it's interesting because I was just talking to a guy that I met in the Tony Robbins workshop who heads and runs one of the biggest hedge funds in Hong Kong Sunday, and he was telling me Sunday that malaking bagay yung Mexico. Why? Because a lot of the Chinese manufacturers nung tinigil yung tariff sa China, dun nila dinaan sa Mexico to reassemble, re-export so that those same products can go back into the US. So, and that would disrupt a lot of the supply chains of a lot of new industries that weren't affected the past few weeks, months. But again, even if I'm presented with that idea, I would go back to still having the discipline to carve and to trade what you see versus what you think. Right? So,
Next question tayo. May question by M. Alcalde. Right. With the global markets being bothered by trade wars, inverted yield curve, and many other issues, how do you condition your mind to ignore too much noise and focus and have faith in your trading system?
you want to answer that, Kim?
I think
filter yung noise.
I don't know if familiar sila sa, siguro it goes back to kung ano yung sistema namin muna. Kasi pag na-understand kasi nila yun, you will able to know how we operate. And filtering the noise, say, sa core ng setup namin, system, ang first dyan is technicals technical analysis, market timing, risk, price action. And yung naka-wrap around that core is the macro, the elite wave biases, the tips, insider tips, or funda is also one for us. It's one form of a hype. It's one form of biases. So if, in terms of filtering the noise, naka-design yung system so that dito yung core and yung iba, kumbaga flavor na lang siya.
Parang gravy lang.
Yeah. But if without the core, if we operate dun sa labas, wala kaming pinanghawakan kasi ang daming pwedeng bias pumasok right? Pero when we have the core, which is technical analysis,
It's the core engine.
Core engine, iba yung pag-operate namin, may direction.
Right.
As opposed to, ang daming mga, nakasalubong mo lang sa CR, ano daw,
to the moon.
sabi, para pag sinabi, si Trump daw, ibaba na niya yung ano sa Philippines, yung trade. I mean, hindi nangyari yun pero yung mga ganong bias na papasok, we have to design them, to use them in a very productive way, which is using it with your TA.
Right. So to maybe also answer the question on top of what Ken has already mentioned, so with all these other concerns, how do you condition your mind to ignore too much noise?
Kunwari, nag-meditate ka or parang
Well,
sakay mo yung sarili mo.
Kasi I would also implore traders who let itong mga noise affect them. Also, take a step back and ask themselves, like, syempre ngayon, what's his name? EM, sabi niya, obviously global markets are being bothered. You have trade wars, you have the yield curve, which is inverted, and not just any part of the yield curve, the most important part of the yield curve, which is the 3-month and the 10-year. Not only that, I mean, to be honest, I can tell you 10 other issues. I can go on for 10 minutes about the corporate bond debt building in the US, which is the highest it's ever been.
I have some 3
I
hours.
can tell you about the pension crisis. I can tell you about all the problems, the problem in Hong Kong, which I mean, just last year they lost 80% of their cash reserves. But the point that I want to make is whether it's a concern, or regardless of what concern it is, you kind of need to ask yourself if you're making a decision out of fear. Let's say if you allow these concerns to affect the way you click that mouse, essentially you're making a decision out of fear, right? And as we know, whether it's in trading or in life, the best decisions aren't made out of fear, right? What's the opposite of fear? They're made out of courage, they're made out of faith, they're made out of conviction, they're made out of determination, right? And I guess the question now becomes, how do you build that type of muscle to make decisions coming from that type of state, that kind of psychological state? And obviously for most of the more experienced traders out there, it's from experience. Kasi once you already gain some bearing on how the system really works and how you should just shut off everything else, it's easier really to trade. But the question is, how do you gain that experience so that you're able to act on that experience and not a belief about a certain concern, external concern? Diba? Sabi natin kanina, belief is always a poor substitute for an experience. And how do you gain that experience in the first place is to
skin it.
Yeah, I mean, you need you really need to when there's a setup, you really need to pull the trigger. Not only that, when you have let's say when you go to your analytics, obviously you review not just the trades that were made, but the missed opportunities as well. And is there a common thread that allows you to miss yung mga missed opportunities, right? Is it because of a top-down bias where you allow the concern about markets around the world to influence the way you operate on your setups on a day-to-day basis, right? Is it a concern because sinabihan ka ng let's say kaibigan mo na wag mo bilhin yan kasi geto. Maybe it could be something specific to that company, a specific bias, right? So it's really important to coming from experience, to allow that experience to build your own conviction on the system, to build your own. Kasi yung mga people that actually say trade what you see, what you think. You think they're saying that because they share from experience. Experience yan eh, diba? Veterano na. And so I would really encourage you to with all these, let's say even with all these global concerns, if you see a setup like for example, let's say something like CPG, right? That has ADX greater than 25, it just broke out from a short-term coil. It just broke out from what looks like a resistance of maybe a double bottom long-term pattern. Again, full disclosure, I don't have this in my personal. I don't have this in my personal, which is why I'm fully okay recommending this to you guys. I mean, if that opportunity was had, then just pull the trigger, right? I mean, at the end of the day, naman, whether there's a global concern or not, you're still gonna cut losses of 1% VAR or whatever VAR you have. You're still gonna manage risk. What's the worst case that can happen? Worst case happen, you lose money, 1%. Then that's experience for you to be a better trader moving forward.
Tuition fee.
It's a small tuition fee, right? I mean, the key lang naman is not. I mean, as most traders already know, is whether you have a concern, let's say a concern about EM, bond yield inversions, the key is not allowing the mistakes to be repeated. Not just repeated, but not allowing them to be fatal mistakes, right? Which means that in this case, big losses, or depending on the trading system that you use, whether it's 1% VAR, 2% VAR, 0.7, 0.5, whatever. Kasi that's part of it. That's part of knowing yourself as a trader. And remember, it's only the process of knowing yourself combined with knowing a system that you're able to become a successful trader, not just knowing the system.
Yeah. So, grabe. Diba?
Hinihingal na si Tom.
Hinihingal. Hindi si Sir Happy. Wow. So, I guess we can end. But before we end, may nagpapa-shoutout na trader from Singapore.
Wow.
Shoutout sa'yo. Shoutout sa mga traders sa Singapore. If you haven't seen one of our posts, we're gonna have an investor summit sa Singapore, I believe on July 27. And grabe yung mga speakers, sa totoo lang. Si Mark Ritchie and Mark Ritchie II, Market Wizard, Momentum Master, si Rainer Teo, nandun din.
Ano nga pala yung URL?
Tignan natin.
Fail.
Teka.
Wait lang. Google mo lang.
Singapore na lang.
Singapore Trading Summit, lalabas din si Google.
Pakita lang namin sandali.
It's Investagrams. Lagay mo Investagrams.
So I actually had the chance of meeting one of the speakers.
Yun. So ito yung event namin sa Singapore, Trader Summit sa Jordan Hall, Bugis, Singapore.
Wow.
Yep. So, iba yung level ng lineup ng mga speakers. Talagang world class talaga. From different countries, si Mark Ritchie, si Rainer Teo, Robin Ho, Andreas, Jake Chow, Mark Ritchie II, and of course, our very own Sir JC Bisnar. Yeah.
Solid
So yeah, so sa mga traders sa Singapore, make sure you don't miss out on this. Talagang pinagplanuhan at pinaghirapan ng Investa team to sa July 27.
So ito yung mga topics, no?
Yan yung mga topics sa
Punta
pag-uusapan.
na kayo sa
Yeah.
na to.
Wow.
Pwede mo yung tickets ko. Kaya yung different kinds of tickets.
So dahil guest kami dito sa livecast, libre ba yung cast namin? Joke lang yun. Joke lang yun.
So, yun.
And last na. Besides this, na bagong labas din namin, may bago rin kami labas kung di nyo pa alam na Investa Prime. Diba? If you heard of it.
Parang Amazon Prime.
So basically,
May Prime, di ba? Tapos may Prime Plus pa. Tama.
Yeah.
Okay. Ano friends?
There.
May journal, yung Prime Plus.
Yun. So basically, Investa Prime, it brings all the essential tools na kailangan mo to succeed as a trader. Andiyan na yung Investa Watcher, andiyan na yung Investa Journal, Investa Screening na pinakita namin kanina. And yun. And may tama pa, Investa Jockey.
Yeah.
New feature na de-develop na ngayon.
So, historical broker transactions?
Yes.
Kapag sa Prime Plus, merong ganun. And
Historical.
sa Prime Plus, meron din Investa Booster Pack. I believe 400 pages na learning material, learning content. So, ako, just as a user, I really believe na makaka-benefit to sa trading. Your trading journey and your learning curve. So, yun.
So that ends our session.
Yep, maraming salamat.
Thanks, guys.
Sa
Salamat,
nag-stay.
salamat,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat. Thank you, Bear.
Thanks.
Bro.
Thank you, Pao, one of the future superstars to watch out
Oh,
for.
thank you.
19 years old.
19
Grabe.
years old trader na.
Grabe.
And good luck sa mga sasali sa Trading Cup 2019.